Hello everyone, Neil here from Red Flare Models. Today I'm going to do a how-to video on how this creation of a backpack that I've made based on a UK Army frame. It's a vintage frame that I got from eBay. What I've done is I've added some units to the bottom and back, and I've 3D printed those. And what I'm going to do is show you exactly how I've created that from the original CAD drawings all the way through to the process of spraying and printing, weathering, and the grime and grunge that I've applied, and then the finishing touches to that. So, hopefully it will help you improve your costume making. But loads of questions. Please feel free to put them in the comments, and what I'll do is I'll try and answer them as I can. But this is obviously something that I have worked on just over the last week, so I want to give you an example of how this can be made quite quickly and easily using a standard 3D printer and some spray and paint that you have around. So just as a very brief breakdown of this, this is the old Army frame that I've acquired. It's a UK one, it's a vintage one actually, that I got off eBay, so I'm not sure if you can get a similar frame, but I have seen them around, so you can probably acquire one if you can. This here is a Creebly that I created in CAD and then printed on a Creality K1 Max, so it was printed in one piece. And then this here, this tube here, has been assembled. It's a drainage pipe here at the bottom with two end caps that have been printed, and then I've got some flexible hosing and some strapping and webbing that I've done and added to the frame just to secure it all together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down how exactly I've created this, show you in detail how I've used Cricut to kind of create the decals, add some kind of detailing and paint this up. So these are the two units and the Greeblies that I've constructed using Tinkercad, which is an online tool. It's free, which is a good thing, but you just need to register an account, and it's by the guys who made SolidWorks. So it's a really professional kind of online solution. It has its limitations, but one of the things that I've done over the years is I've built up an asset library so I can construct these things fairly quickly. As you can see here, the detail is pretty solid. So I've applied a base color here of silver, and as you can see, the green spots on here are a liquid mask that I've just applied with a paintbrush to kind of what I want to do is reveal the silver underneath after I've added a few layers of paint. So I'm using Cobra paints. They're based in the UK, but I think they ship internationally. They're my go-to paint at the moment. They have a really good, solid, clean color, and the nozzles are very good. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to lay down a base color of this tan. Advise really, I'm using a spray booth as you can see, but if you're going to be spraying this outside or something, definitely please wear a mask and please wear gloves, because this stuff gets everywhere and you don't want this in your lungs. So as you say, I've got a dedicated spray booth for this. But, if you're using something outside, just be careful. So once I've finished the layer, I'll let this dry, may touch up a few little bits and pieces. Here I go afterwards, just to kind of make sure I've got a solid undercoat of this tan before I apply the second of the colour. So I'm going to apply the second coat. This is the mustard yellow I was mentioning earlier. It's from the HP range of Cobra, and I'll put their link in the comments below. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to apply a liberal coating of that over the top of the tan and obviously the masking fluid that has dried. And what I'm trying to achieve here is several layers. So obviously the silver on the bottom, I've then got the tan colour, and lastly is going to be this mustard yellow. I'm just going to add a bit more on, get it in the cracks and the crevices. I actually let this dry and orientated it in the booth to get additional, which I'm not showing here, but I got it in the cracks and in the grooves there you can see on the side, just to make sure I've got a full coverage. Now I'm just going to remove the mask, the liquid mask. So I'm using an old scrubbing brush. It's got a bit of texture to it, but it's not going to actually scratch the paint. And applying a bit of force here just to get the initial kind of rubbery material of the mask off. It's a bit stubborn in places, but as you can see, it's revealing both the tan color and the silver. And that's the effect that I want on these layers. It's a bit messy in places, but it doesn't really matter because this is going to be a unit that has obviously seen a lot of use and kind of wear and tear, so it doesn't really matter revealing kind of all this cracks and scuffs and scrapes. The important thing is the randomness of the elements that I've applied, that masking that I applied to give it some detail and to give it some depth. It's quite hard in places to actually see where I put the mask down. So I'm kind of having to scratch and scrape. It's a bit, yeah, there we are, get that off. There. Yep, I can see some there. There we are, get that. And here's the finished versions. As you can see, there's several layers and several colors here. Okay, next up is I'm just finishing with the cylinder. So what I've actually done here is I 3D printed the parts, already applied silver to the two main elements. Added them to, obviously this is a 100mm kind of plastic drainage pipe, which I acquired from just a hardware store, and you can see where I've applied the masking. So going to use slightly different color here. So this is Sienna Skin from Cobra Paints, and again I'm just going to apply that in a kind of layered effect. The great thing about this nozzle that I'm using is it gives it a slightly textured feel, which I wanted to go for on this piece, so you can see that being applied now. Getting into the grooves there. Just making sure I've got a good coverage. So once that's dry, you can see here I've applied a second layer of the masking fluid. Been quite liberal on this, and I've also put it onto the tube. So remember, the silver is just on the end caps, and it's just the base color here. So I'm going to use a red. This is a kind of a ruby red. It's not quite red, like Firehouse red. So it's got a bit of a lipstick almost color to it, and liberal application, as I mentioned. You know, make sure you're wearing your mask for this. These Cobra paints are very good. They give a really good even coat, and they're used for graffiti and other solutions. So actually the application of the paint goes really, really well on any surface that I've used so far. And that's dry. I'll give it a second coat underneath, and then we're done. This is the exciting bit. This is the bit I love. So I'm just coating it now. I've let it dry overnight, and I'm just giving it a quick spray and spritz of water. I'm going to use a product called Dirty Down. It's used in the industry, in the film industry and stuff, for just kind of adding quick textures and kind of weathering. There's different colors. I'm using blonde, ash blonde, gray, and there's a rust color. So it works really well, because if you have any issues when you're spraying it on, you can then just apply more water and dab it off. So now I've got the water on there, just randomly applying it in all the cracks and crevices, and you can see here it's going on. Got the brush there, and you use some paper towel. Just take it off, get it in there. So I'm dabbing it off. It dries really quick as well. So one of the important things, but as I say, you can apply water to it, and it then becomes malleable, I guess. You know, you can then kind of take it off and apply different coats to it. The great thing is it applies dirt and kind of texture to what you've kind of created. You could use, I guess, just standard acrylic paints and lots of water, spray it on and do the same thing, but I like the convenience of these sprays. So again, I'm applying the grey first. And then this is the ash blonde. You can see the difference in colour. So obviously this has been, you know, this piece of equipment would have been used in the field a lot, been dirty, mucky, and so kind of I wanted to give it that kind of really cool effect of being, you know, not brand new out of the factory. So I'm going to apply the rust now. And I'm going to do this quite sparingly in just areas where I think that the equipment would show signs of rust by those scratches, and also by some of those ports where I'm putting the flexible hosing in. around the bolts. As you can see, it's mottled as I sprayed it on. So what I'm going to do, I'll just use a bit of the spray. There we are, and that just wets it, and it makes it run a little better. And once it's dry, you get those different effects to it. There we go. Right, quite happy with that. Let that dry. So next up, I am just going to apply some final effects. So I've got some various washes from Vallejo and MIG here, just from my paint collection. I want to kind of add that extra level of kind of texture and weathering to the model. So first off, I've got some kind of oil effect just around the pipe here, applying it with a little brush, just getting in there. And that will give it a kind of like leaked look. So those two joints around there. You can't see that bit, but that's right there. Turn it around. You can see the sticker there, actually. So one of the things I worked on earlier was I kind of just in Illustrator, Adobe Illustrator, just designed a sticker, printed that out, and I've kind of mounted that in that recess, and then cut out a piece of clear acetate to glue on top. And I've used it's like canopy glue, so it dries clear. So I'll finish with the oils. I'm going to put some wash effects on. A bit more here and there, just being liberal as I can with the brush. I'll take a bit off there. Just adding in some black. So one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to water this black down. You can't see the palette, it's off the screen, so I apologise for that. And I'm applying it here where these kind of pipes or additional kind of circular cable things would go. Not quite sure what to really call them. Just giving it a coat. There we are. So I'm just going to work my way around. Trying to get that. Yeah, there we are. A little awkward to do that with the camera here. Hopefully you can just see that. And I'm going to move around do that one. Here's the finished weathering with all the kind of grime it added. You can see I've also here added some additional decals that I had lying around. So this is the part without, and then I've added the decals here. So just these are just water slide decals that I've just done. There we are. Cylinder now, that's all cured, the paint's dry, so process next is obviously to remove the weathering, the masking fluid. It's quite tough in patches and panels on this, so it's I'm using the gloves, but it wasn't the best technique to remove. Took me a bit of a while. As you can see here, it's proven a bit stubborn. But you can see the silver and the skin tone, flesh tone underneath. So that's the two colours that were applied to these edges. Sorry, these end caps. I think I'm going to have to use something else to get this off. It's proving a bit stubborn. Might have to go back to the brush that I used earlier. Oh, got a hole in my glove. So I've managed to get all of this off now. It was a little bit harder actually to get off than the other material. I ended up using that kind of old brush in the end, old scrubbing brush. But I'm quite happy with how that's come out with both the silver and the pale cream, and there we are, showing that how that works in the two colours, getting the contrast basically for that mustard yellow and that deep ruby red. So I'm going to work on designing a custom sticker for this. I'm using Illustrator, and I've got a couple of elements that I've already used in the past. So I've got some Auric Besh fonts, I've got some elements where I have created graphics and things for signage and other ideas like that in the past. And so I'm just manipulating this. The layout, as you can see, is kind of sized to the sticker. I think it was 240mm by 40mm high, and I'm just working on elements here. Going to twist that there and make that the height. Just aligning this all. Flip that. Take that to the height of the text there. All right. Just gonna make a little tiny change there. Just expand those up. There we are. No, not quite keen on that shape there, so I'm just going to oops, I need to ungroup that first. There, so I'll just combine those and just cut a segment out, and I'm going to add the warning hand. I've got one down here. I'm going to remove that plug. As I say, I've created these in the past, and so I'm just going to take those out, use the hand on its own, resize that. Group, there we are. So I'm just trying to give a nice kind of graphic. Doesn't necessarily have to mean very much, but I want something that is just a warning label on that tube at the bottom, and I'm going to obviously make it print that out or cut that out on the cry cut on some an adhesive vinyl, which I'll show you next. Okay, so I've opened up the cry cut application, and I'm just going to import all the assets from my library. Make sure that's okay. Yeah. So I've got my material ready already. I'm going to use some smart vinyl. It's kind of a gold color, which you'll see in a second. Okay, so I've got the machine here, file's ready, so I'm just going to press play or go. File's already been sent, so the machine's just going to cut. And I felt this kind of material is like a smart adhesive vinyl. It's a permanent vinyl from Crycut, but I felt it was the appropriate color for that red. I was originally going to use black, but honestly I felt that this color was a little bit kind of more sympathetic to the textures and the material and paints that I'd used. So it's just cutting the file out right now, and then we're done in a few minutes. And here's the finished decal. Applied it obviously to the tube. The only thing now left is some weathering, some grunge and grime that I've got to do to the tube as well now. As I say, I started off with this frame, acquired it from eBay, and it's an old army frame, as I mentioned, so I'm not sure if you can get these before, but this is the final product and I'm really happy with how it's gone. Use just some webbing straps, as you can see, just weathered those. Again, same technique, just putting some grunge and grime against it, some oils and some blacks and just greys to give those toggles and things just a bit of a rusted look, and then just strapped it, glued it all together, and it's now in one piece. Really happy with the texture and the detail on that, so I'm going to be looking forward to wearing that to my next Comic-Con. Thank you everyone for watching, and if you have any questions, just leave them in the notes below and I'll be glad to respond.